Hey guys, welcome back to Bryan's Mysteries and Adventures on Trail. And today's video I don't have a lot of information for because this just happened. This man just went missing, but I will give you the facts of what I do know. So today we're going to be talking about 74-year-old Gary Fisk, who went missing in Chugach State Park in Alaska. Gary was attempting to do roughly a 26-mile hike. This is Gary pictured here. He's about 6 feet tall, with a beard, and he was thought to be wearing a blue coat at the time he was out on this hike. Apparently, if you were going to do this hike just as a straight shot, and because of it's so rugged, and it would take you almost like 24 hours of hiking straight through. But of course, Gary had planned to do an overnight. He was going to be out for several nights, so he was just going to split it up by a couple of days. And he is a very experienced outdoorsman and had been hiking in Alaska for many years. So at first people didn't hit the panic button, they just waited, gave him a little bit more time, because at this point the weather wasn't bad, the weather hadn't moved in yet. But unfortunately after waiting another day, he never showed up, so then they knew that there was a problem. And unfortunately, almost immediately after Gary was dropped off to start his hike, a massive snowstorm rolled in, and they have just been pounded with snow since. According to the Anchorage National Weather Service, just this past weekend, they received over a foot of new snow. Once they realized that there was a problem, the Alaskan Mountain Rescue Group backtraced the trail from the Eagle Creek Nature Center for about 3 miles. However, they were still unable to locate him. So that's when they brought in ATVs and snowmobiles and other equipment. Unfortunately, the foul weather really put a damper on the search. Not only was there crazy snow, but really low cloud cover and just very poor visibility, according to what the officials said. So over the weekend, they brought in a helicopter and they did a search using their various technologies like infrared, and simultaneously the parties that were on foot by the Alaskan Mountain Group was still there trying to backtrace his steps, going through the trail again, and unfortunately through all of this they were unable to find any clues or Gary. And unfortunately, in areas like this, where the trail is very narrow to begin with and you're just surrounded by crazy wilderness, when there's a huge amount of snow that falls, it can really impede your ability to see the trail, especially if there's a bunch of switchbacks. And according to officials and what I've read, this area is very, very rugged and treacherous. It's a beautiful area and draws people from all over. It's about 45 miles southeast of the city of Anchorage, but it's a very isolated place, and there's an elevation gain on this trail of about 3,290 feet, and it's rated as a hard trail, and that's according to all trails, but I'm sure everyone has their own opinion, but that's the overwhelming consensus. According to one of the volunteers of the search and rescue, he's lived up there and worked with search and rescue for 22 years, and he says that it's a very rough trail. And this isn't your everyday, average day hike. It is a very underdeveloped trail. It involves scrambling over rocks, using ladders and ropes in various areas, and crossing over a mountain river. So you can imagine, like in the wintertime when that river and water is cold, and in Alaska I'm sure the water is always cold. The fact that he was already facing a very difficult trail and then this huge storm moved in right as he got on trail is very concerning. And what's worse is that by now rescue crews have covered the entire trail on foot, actually twice, according to the ranger that's leading the search. He said that they were finished doing this by Sunday, covering it twice, and they found no indication of Gary Fisk on the trail, any footprints, any remnants of a fire, or any of his gear, which is very odd in my opinion. And unfortunately, it's possible that Gary found refuge in a cave, and that hopefully that's what he's doing to wait out the storm. But they did find it weird that they didn't find any footprints, any remnants of anything, a fire, because usually a lot of times when they get the search going right away and they know the trail and they cover every inch of that trail, so it's thought that Gary must have gone off trail for some reason. It's possible he went off to use the bathroom, he could have suffered a fall, but unfortunately on Monday, due to the fact that they had gone over it a couple of times and they still hadn't found him, they have suspended the search while they try and come up with another plan, possibly using drones and more helicopters with infrared and different technology like that. One thing I did also want to point out, because I know I have covered a couple of cases of people going missing in Alaska, and in the comment section a lot of people were wondering why the searches didn't go on as long as some of the ones down here in the lower 48 or in other areas. And it's because that up in Alaska, in a lot of areas that are very remote, they just don't have the same kind of manpower. I mean, they might only have, 2 or 3 police officers for the whole town, and search and rescue is almost always volunteer. So it's not a matter of, them just not wanting to put in the effort. It's just not having the actual manpower. And in this particular case, they've really done a great job with what they've had. I mean, especially with this huge storm that came in and still being able to cover the whole trail twice. And despite the fact that they may not have as much manpower as some other places, they definitely do have an amazing amount of experience in dealing with heavy snow and how to get through it. And so that is one advantage that they do have, since they do get so much snow, working with snowmobiles and skis and things like that. Now, unfortunately, I'd be remiss if I didn't say this, but October is one of the worst months as far as for animal attacks, because bears they're in, just pure survival mode, and they're trying to get as fat as possible for the upcoming winter. So it is just known that as late fall comes in, it's just the bears are generally more aggressive, especially if there has been something like a drought or a food shortage. Now, I don't know, I couldn't find anything stating that there was a drought or a food shortage, but nonetheless, bears are notoriously known to be more aggressive as you get closer to winter. So animal predation is always a possibility. However, most likely there probably would have been evidence of that. It is a little curious, and the search and rescue were surprised that they didn't find him and they didn't find anything, because that means that he did go off trail. And honestly, if you're ever in a situation like this, I know it's kind of counterintuitive, but you do want to stay put if possible, because search and rescue will generally find you a lot easier. So many times in these cases, if people had just stayed put, they would have been found. But unfortunately, it's our instinct to try and, find our way out. And usually that just leads to us getting lost even more, or even suffering an injury or something else happening. And in these cases, search and rescue, what they'll do is, in the areas where the people have gone missing, they'll leave little arrows and some snacks and water, generally things to try and help point people in the right direction. All right, everyone, that's really all I have for this case. As I said, it just happened last week. Gary Fisk is a 74-year-old white male. He's roughly 6 foot tall, thought to be wearing a blue jacket, and he went missing. He started his hike on September 21st, 2021. He was hiking the Crow Pass trailhead near Gurwood, Alaska, and he was thought to be going to the Eagle River Nature Center, and he was supposed to show up there on Thursday, 2 days later. However, he never showed up, and searches were sent out the following day and throughout the weekend. And throughout a huge storm, they were still able to cover the trail twice on foot. Unfortunately, the search has been suspended, but it's just been suspended. They're just trying to regroup and think of another strategy to go out and look for Gary. Sending thoughts and prayers to Gary and all the search and rescuers and everyone that's looking for him, and hopefully he can find his way back soon. I want to thank everybody for watching, as always, and as always, please keep the comments respectful. I want to say thank you to co.ag for providing the background music, and I'll see everyone in the next one. Take care. Hey guys, thanks for sticking with me to the end. Well, I just wanted to let everyone know that there's a news station out in LA that saw the video I did on Daniel Robinson, and they are actually starting a new show called Missing in America, and they decided to make that their first episode, that on the case with Daniel Robinson. So they're out there in Buckeye right now investigating the case, and they actually called me for a Zoom interview where we discussed the case and possible theories, and I also mentioned some of the ideas that you guys brought to my attention. So this is really what I wanted, was for us to all come together and help work on these cases. And I just think it's great that more people are getting involved and paying attention to these cases, because ultimately that's what I want. And that's why I say, everyone should watch as many channels and shows on these cases as possible, because you might take one clue from one show, another clue from another, and when you put them all together, sometimes that's how these cases are solved. If anyone's interested in watching that interview and their show, Missing in America, it's on tomorrow night at 9 p.m. That's the 29th of September on Prime News Nation. They were wonderful to work with on that interview, and they seem like they're going to bring a lot of great things to helping find and solve some of these missing cases. Alright guys, thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next one. Take care.